She slammed me face first onto the hood of my own Rolls-Royce, a cheap pair of fake handcuffs digging into my wrist. Neighbors watching like I was some thug finally getting caught. She screamed that my car was evidence in a narcotics case, that I was just another drug dealer flashing dirty money. What she didn't know was that the man she was humiliating in broad daylight was the director of the FBI. It had started like any other Saturday. I just finished a brutal workout at the gym, came home drenched in sweat, tossed my bag in the garage, and let the black Rolls-Royce Ghost purr into the driveway. That car is my one ridiculous indulgence, a symbol that I'd made it from the roughest streets of Chicago all the way to the top. I should have felt proud, peaceful even standing in the sun. Instead, a beat-up Ford Taurus screeched to a stop at the end of my driveway and chaos spilled out. A woman in her late 50s climbed out, hair dyed a brassy yellow makeup caked like bad theater paint. She was wearing what I guess was supposed to be a police uniform, though it looked more like something bought from a Halloween clearance rack. The patches were crooked, the belt was plastic, the taser obviously a toy. But her fury, that was real. Her eyes bulged, lips curled, and she pointed at me like I was already guilty. Hands on the vehicle now, she shrieked. For a second, I honestly thought it was a prank. Maybe some twisted HOA stunt. I even asked if this was a joke delivery service. But then she spit out the line that made my blood run cold. "Your kind are all drug dealers. This is a lawful seizure of assets." That word, "your kind," was the poison beneath everything. My jaw clenched. I told her calmly she was on private property, that she needed to leave before things got serious. She didn't leave. Instead, she screamed, resisting arrest, and lunged. She was surprisingly strong, fueled by raw crazy. Before I could even register it, she twisted my arm, slammed me down on the hood of my own car, and snapped one cuff onto my wrist. My neighbors began filing out onto their pristine lawns. Phones came up. I heard their whispers. Some of them actually nodded as if their worst prejudices were confirmed. I knew a guy like him couldn't be legit. Pinned down, smelling her cheap perfume, feeling that fake badge scrape against me, I wanted to explode. But years of training screamed in my head, "Don't escalate. Be the calm in the storm." If I fought back, it would become exactly the story she was writing, a big black man attacking a white female cop. I froze, humiliated, furious, documenting every detail in my mind like I was writing an incident report. Then she fumbled with the toy radio, barking into it like she was dispatch. "Officer Sandy, badge 7014. Suspect in custody, requesting impound truck for narcotics seizure." And within minutes, like it had been rehearsed, a greasy tow truck rumbled up the block. Kenny's 24-hour towing stenciled in flaking paint on the side. The driver hopped out, eyes gleaming at my car like a vulture circling fresh meat. That's when I felt the first real pang of despair. Maybe this wasn't just some deranged HOA Karen on a power trip. Maybe this was a setup, a plan to strip me of the one thing that symbolized everything I'd worked for. Lying there cuffed and ridiculed, I actually wondered if I should just let it go, hand them the car, walk away, disappear into my house. I thought maybe I was wrong to bring this kind of attention to myself. Maybe it was my mistake for living here, for standing out. That was the lowest moment. And then came the sirens, real ones. Red and blue lights flooding the street, 4 officers climbing out of 2 squad cars. For a split second, relief washed over me. But dread came right behind it. They saw a cop pinning me down and me in a sweat-stained tank top on the hood of a luxury car. The story looked obvious from the outside. The sergeant's eyes narrowed, suspicious of me. Sandy straightened up like she was queen of the precinct. "Glad you're here, officers," she barked. "Caught him in the middle of a drug deal. Vehicle needs to be impounded as evidence." She shoved me for emphasis. I could see the younger officers buying her act. My stomach knotted. If I said the wrong thing, this nightmare would spin even further out of control. But the sergeant wasn't entirely convinced. He looked at her cheap uniform, the patches from the wrong county, the plastic belt. His voice turned hard. "Ma'am, we don't have an Officer Sandy in this precinct. What department are you with?" For a moment she faltered, then doubled down, claiming she was part of some undercover county task force. It was unraveling fast. That was my moment. I took a slow breath, steadied my voice, and said, "Sergeant, if you'd do me a favor, reach into my right front pocket and pull out my wallet." The youngest officer did. He opened it, and his eyes went wide. He stammered, handed it to the sergeant. The man froze. His whole demeanor changed. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. In his hands were my credentials, United States Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation Director. The sergeant's face went pale. He snapped to attention, rushed to uncuff me, his hands trembling. Behind him, the other officers turned on Sandy. Her smirk collapsed as reality came crashing down. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for impersonating an officer assault and a list of charges I'll be writing up on the way to the station." The color drained from her face as steel cuffs, real ones, closed around her wrists. You'd think that would be the end of it. But as the tow truck peeled away, tires squealing, something nagged at me. The timing, the fake radio call, the specific request for an impound, all too neat. This wasn't just a crazy woman's racist meltdown. It was a plan, and I wasn't about to let it slide. That night, back in my home office, anger hardened into resolve. I opened a file on Sandra Plott and Kenny's towing company. My team at the Bureau dug in. What we uncovered made my blood boil. Sandra had been stalking my car for months, posting photos online, ranting that soon it will be mine. Kenny's shop was a chop shop, part of a larger ring stealing high-end vehicles. And my Rolls-Royce wasn't their first target. At first, I felt a strange weariness, like maybe I should hand it over to the locals, let them file it as just another crazy incident. I even thought about burying it. But then I replayed her words, "You're kind," and saw again the neighbors nodding like she'd been right. No, if I let this go, I'd be letting that lie stand. That's when the fire came back. I wasn't just going to clear my name, I was going to bring the whole rotten operation down. We put Kenny under surveillance, tracked his late-night deliveries of stolen BMWs and Porsches. We found the forger, a woman, cranking out fake VIN plates from a strip mall print shop. And at the top sat Silas, a gangster tied to an overseas syndicate. Sandra's insane officer routine was just her way of proving her worth to the crew, her twisted shot at a big score. My car was supposed to net her $100,000 and buy her a new identity as some kind of vigilante hero. The sting came together piece by piece. Kenny flipped first cornered in his filthy garage office, photos of stolen cars laid in front of him. He crumbled in hours, spilling everything. Even selling out his mother. His words cut like glass. She ain't crazy. She knew exactly what she was doing. This was her Super Bowl. With him as our witness, we set the trap for Silas. A Ferrari bait car, a fake hotel, cameras everywhere. When his thief knelt to plant a tracker, we had them. By 1 a.m., tactical teams across the city hit every target. The thieves, the forger, the ringleader, all cuffed. And finally, Sandra dragged out of her dingy apartment in silence, her empire of delusion turned to dust. I stood in the command room, screens glowing with live feeds of arrests, and felt that cold satisfaction settle in. The humiliation of that day in my driveway had turned into a weapon. Out of her hate, I'd pulled the thread that unraveled an entire criminal conspiracy. She thought she was the law. She thought she could use my skin, my car, my neighbor's prejudice to write a false story. Instead, she wrote her own downfall. That's where it ended, her in chains, her son testifying against her, the whole ring dismantled. My car still in my garage, scarred, but mine. And the lesson: hate always thinks it's powerful until it crashes head-on into the truth.